House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
All right, everybody. Liz, Gina, and Jason coming to you. Gina with a absolutely lovely red cardigan. I've got a polo shirt, and Liz has a denim jacket. I like that. Point being, there are a variety of ways to feel good, to look good, and that is kind of the topic right now. Because I'm curious, ladies, because we were talking about last week about getting involved in investment properties for the first time. We talked about it merely and probably exclusively within the scope of cash. But are there other ways to finance a investment property if you want to get into that?
Well, I'll start because remember I had mentioned last week that in my particular situation, my family, we got started by convincing an owner to offer us owner financing. And it was basically because at the time he couldn't sell the properties that he had. It was difficult to sell and he had a lot of them. So he was trying to just get that off his plate. So that was his motivation to allow me to do owner financing, is because he couldn't sell it to begin with. Their money and they're not offering owner financing. But that was my mechanism to get into the investment in real estate, was I used owner financing. That's how I got started. But I just want to say that's very difficult to do.
Okay. Liz, what would be some of the other instruments that someone could use?
Well, there are situations like I'm in the process of doing a transaction right now where the owners want their price and they've had a number of different offers. And of course, they would like to liquidate and utilize the money to relocate. So what they're doing right now is accepting some cash up front, and the balance will be seller financing. Of course, we have to account for the interest rate. We have to reflect the window of time. And in this particular case, they amortize the balance over, let's say, 15 years. So a lot of people who want to do owner-seller financing, they'd like to make the monthly payments doable, depending on each of their budgets. So we work on amortizing it over a longer period of time, so it makes the monthly payment more manageable, and then a balloon in either 2 or 3 years. So in this particular transaction, that's the route we're taking. Some cash up front, so they're able to handle some expenses and get their relocation going, and then the balance with the monthly payment. So we've seen a number of those type transactions, but it would only work with owners that are willing to do that. Many of them want some protection if they do seller financing, and one of them could either be the title passing with a secured note on the property, or they do contract of sale where the title does not pass. But usually when you're doing a contract of sale, it makes it difficult to leverage the property. So preferable is the title passes, but any seller would want some form of security to secure the balance, so that if anything happens, either that the property is there's a lien on the property, so that if they had to get it back, there's a mechanism to make that happen.
Now we're talking about very well structured, very organized deals, and you guys are the best when it comes to getting deals done. But what you also are, the both of you, and I know this better than anybody at this point, is you're very, very creative, right? Have people in the past used kind of like a startup mentality where they say, I'm going to ask grandma and grandpa if they can chuck $20,000 my way, or I'm going to tap into my own life savings and everything like that, and not deal with APRs and not deal with the banks? I mean, we love the banks, we love their generosity, we love the guidance they give us, but is there anyone who tries to go it their own way, and what are some of the risks inherent with that?
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, Gina.
Well, what you're looking at, Jace, I mean, what you're describing almost is, you're talking about cash, right? They've got family members, they've taken it out of their savings. So yeah, I mean, if you've got the cash, absolutely, you have the cash.
Ask for some sort of return on investment, though, I guess is my question. If they say, okay, I'll give you $20,000, but at some point I would like a cut.
Well, me personally, I don't get into that. If you come to me and you say, Gina, I want to buy a piece of property and I'm paying cash, I need to verify that you've got the cash, but I'm not going to ask you and make you explain to me if mom and dad's giving you the cash, what do they expect? So we don't get into that.
Okay.
That's, if you're doing owner financing, then we're going to ask a lot of questions because we've got to make sure what Liz just described is a very complicated. I mean, this is complicated. Of course, we're dealing with money. We're dealing with real estate. It should be complicated. It shouldn't be easy. There needs to be documents on the table. Everything needs to be done properly. But if you don't have cash, and it's really hard. I mean, Liz kind of mentioned in her transaction, I don't know how long the property was on the market, but I imagine they agreed to owner financing because they haven't been able to move it, just like in my situation. But if you don't have that as an option and you don't have cash, what's the next best thing? And I even say, even if you do have cash, I think the next best thing is, even if you have cash, I prefer to get a bank loan because I want to use someone else's money and I don't want to use my own.
Now, Liz, we also talked about last week is in terms of your portfolio, like as you begin to acquire more and more property, moving forward, because you don't want to have like a whole laundry list of as you said, amortized investments go, and you don't want them stacking up on you and you wind up being really, really into debt, right? Can you actually use existing investment properties in your portfolio as collateral, as leverage?
You definitely can use it because your property. So if you have 5 pieces of property, let's say in Dededo or in Tamuning, and there is a value assigned to each of those properties. But before we go there, I just want to bring up, so when you do seller financing, I want to bring up the fact that when they do a period of time with the balloon, that is usually utilized so that eventually when the interest rates drop, they get a loan and they pay the balance off with the loan. So the seller financing period is good to buy them some time, and then they turn around and get a loan to pay that balance off. So it makes it a lot easier for them. And of course, any seller would prefer that either they pay it off sooner than completing the full window of time. But going back to the portfolio, yes, normally the bank will do an appraisal. If you wanted to use your properties as collateral, the bank will do an appraisal and take about maybe 70 or 60% of the value and then loan you money based on that particular value. It'll be a percentage of the value of the property. They will not give you a loan based on the full value of the property.
Okay. So, Gina, what are some like final words? Because it sounds like, okay, like everything we talked about, there is a strategy, there is what we call a golden path, right? There's a right way and an optimal way to do this. But like you said, I mean, you want to stay a little bit lean too, because like if for some reason, Liz, you very candidly shared last week that you got into investment property 3 decades later, it was still sitting there and didn't turn out the way you wanted to, but you have to be flexible, right?
Well, you have to be liquid.
Liquid. There. That's why you're the best.
Don't get into real estate investment if you have not disciplined yourself enough to save. So in the beginning, it's all about sacrificing and putting money away, because if you go to a lender and you cannot show them that you've had the discipline to save money, and then you ask them to give you a loan and you tell them you're going to be investing, they're good. It's all about what they perceive their risk is going to be. And if they see you haven't been disciplined about your finances, they're not going to want to hand you money to go buy an investment property, because they're going to wonder, are you going to be able to make those monthly payments, when times get tough and they know you're not living in the home and times are, and you're hurting. They look at it this way. Okay, you're not staying there. Your tenants is staying there. If you start to hurt, what are you going to let go of? The house you live in or the house that someone else is living in? And they've analyzed this and they say, no, you're going to let go of the house that you're not living in, and the bank's going to end up getting it back. And so in terms of risk, they want to see that you're solid. So they're going to look that you've been disciplined, you've saved money, and your credit is absolutely important. Remember when your parents said, only have your good name?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a different mindset that a lot of people
Yeah.
have to now embrace, because you want to go over a long period of time, make a series of decisions so that you would actually have money that you put down, make more money in the long term. So, and I think Liz, you said it best last week. You said
Yeah.
patience is a virtue.
Yes, and one thing we want to emphasize is as rental income come in, put money aside, because you need to be prepared if that particular rental property is vacant for 3 to 6 months. You want backup in your account to pay for the mortgage, because I'm sure, like Gina says, we want to use the bank's money to buy property, and if you purchase that using getting a loan, and the tenant and you're unable to get a tenant, you want to be able to sustain the periods, the dry periods. You want to be able to go ahead and pay for it, and also monies to keep renovating, because after a period of time, we've seen landlords where they just want the rent monies and they don't maintain the property. So you should always maintain it to keep it rented and keep cash flow on the side to maintain it and during dry periods.
All right. Well, we hope everybody weathers through the very, very fortuitous, or the rough periods, I should say. And then, so hopefully when we have our salad days and everything, you'll do very, very well. So ladies, thank you so much as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jace.
Bye.
House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.